What's up, Betting Pros? Andrew Erickson here, Betting Pros, Fantasy Pros analyst. And today, we're doing another screen share looking at NFL consensus mock drafts for round one over on the Fantasy Pros website. But this time, we're hopping over to the Betting Pros side of things and looking at this consensus mock draft from the industry leaders across the mock draft database. And we're going to be looking at NFL draft betting opportunities. So essentially what we're doing here is we're going to look at where players are being projected to go in some of these mock drafts, kind of cross-reference it with what the betting odds are saying using some of the odds listed on the Betting Pros draft odds site. And I think we're going to have some fun. So kind of breaking it down, giving my thoughts on some of the picks, especially within the top 5, top 10. And then as we get into some of the later picks, just breaking down maybe some good approaches, because overarching point with this draft, picks 1, 2, 3 seem kind of locked in. You know, the guys who are going to go. Maybe there's a switch up in the order, but for the most part, we know who is going to go where. But then after that, 4, 5, it's a wild, wild west. I mean, I think this is a great opportunity to take some shots on some long shots because there's going to be a lot of weird stuff that happens. So RIP all of our mock drafts. And yeah, I'm looking forward to breaking it down here. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. And again, forgive me for any type of nasally. I've been dealing with some sickness since I got back from my Aruban vacation, but gonna power through here. Got to get this out for you guys. So I'm looking forward to it. We're gonna have some fun here, breaking down this NFL draft betting opportunities. Again, looking at things like just taking advantage of some ambiguous situations, player draft position markets, a bunch of different types of things. So without further ado, let's break it down. So we have the NFL consensus mock draft round one pulled up here. That's kind of what we're going to be focusing on here for today, is just going through round one. And of course, starting with the first overall pick, it's 100%, it's Cam Ward. There is really no surprises here. It's funny, I was looking back at some things I was looking at before the NFL Combine, and at one point, Cam Ward was minus 140 to be the first pick in the NFL draft, and now it's like minus 10,000. It's a very big number. Let me actually just confirm it what it is right now. So this is on the Betting Pros site. You can check out the first overall pick odds, and Cam Ward, yes, minus 10,000 to be the first overall pick. So not something I'm interested in laying, but again, this is what we'll kind of be looking at as well while we're looking through the consensus mock draft. So this is just one of the odds we have listed for the NFL draft. But I do want to get into a little bit more is the number 2 overall pick. So here are the odds currently listed, again, going to the Betting Pros site. You can see the current odds. Travis Hunter is now the favorite after it was Abdul Carter second at plus 350, and then Sanders, and then a bunch of other guys that probably have no chance of ever being the play there. So as we kind of scroll through some of these things here, hopping back to the consensus mock draft. So again, the reports have kind of come out and been announced that it's going to be Travis Hunter is going to be the guy there. And I actually was on this very early on in the process, and this is just another reason why you want to be in the Betting Pros Discord. And because we send out every single time we fire on some of these bets, myself, Derek Brown, some of the other sharp guys that are in the Betting Pros Discord for the NFL draft, I was betting Travis Hunter to be the first non-quarterback drafted at more than 5-1. And even when we started to get some noise that he was going to be the second overall pick, there were still opportunities to get him at plus money while that was being announced, and I threw that back into the Betting Pros Discord. So again, you got it. If you're not in there, this is an opportunity, an example why you want to be in there. Again, we don't know if it's going to work out. Maybe it's just some closing line value. I will say, though, I'm not still 100% sold that it is going to be Travis Hunter. Again, a lot of what the NFL draft betting-wise is trying to take the value and acknowledging that you probably aren't going to be right when it's all said and done. It's really hard to mark and project this thing because NFL teams don't even know what's going to happen. So take as many long shots as humanly possible. And I think that you'll come out in the green in the long run. Don't guy into these super heavy juiced markets where it's a lock. Especially in this draft, it seems like there's not that many locks. So right now, if I was going to make a play on the second overall pick, it would be on Abdul Carter. Again, close to 3-1 odds for him to be the second overall pick. And one of the guys I follow the most for NFL draft betting content is Tony Pauline, NFL draft goat. You know, he's the one that a couple years ago brought me onto the Jahmyr Gibbs to the Lions NFL draft prop. That was one of the biggest hits I've had in the last couple of years. And ever since then, he's someone that I follow very closely when it comes to NFL draft content, especially from an insider's perspective. So he reported not that long ago that the Carter-Hunter debate is still more neck and neck than the odds are suggesting. And really wasn't that long ago where Carter was the heavy favorite to be the second overall pick. So if you don't have any plays on this right now, it would be 3-1 odds for Carter to be sprinkled in at the number 2 overall pick for me. But again, full disclosure, I have a ticket on Hunter, so this might be a hedgehog opportunity as well for myself. But that's it for the second overall pick. Let's move on to the third overall pick. Right now in the mock drafts, we have Shedeur Sanders, 54%, followed by Abdul Carter. Now, I think that this is a little bit of a lag because the betting markets are clearly favoring this to be Travis Hunter and not Shedeur Sanders. We've seen the Shedeur Sanders type of steam really fizzle out over the last couple weeks. He's fallen out in the third round. I mean, now we're getting reports that he's not even going to be the first round pick. It's really all over the place with Shedeur Sanders. So right now, his odds to be a third overall pick are plus 650, more than 5-1. For Hunter, near around 5-1, and then Abdul Carter, the favorite. Under the presumption that Travis Hunter is going to be the second overall pick. Travis Hunter is going to be Hunter's going to be the second overall pick. Abdul Carter will be the third overall pick. Again, I just think this is another opportunity where, hey, if you are right about it being Carter at 2, then you can also take another opportunity to then bet Hunter to go at 3, because that's how the scenarios go to play. So instead of buying into the juiced odds of, it's going to be Hunter 2, Carter at 3, well, you could bet both, you just them to swap essentially and get 3-1 odds on both of those bets, when I think it's probably closer to a coin flip. So that's the approach that I would take if I was betting this right now. I get another 3-1 bet. If you have Carter, if you're right about Carter going second, you're going to probably be right about Hunter going third. The Sanders one, I did place a bet on this one a couple weeks ago at 5-1. It's obviously farther now. I think that he's going to be a giant when it's all said and done. And this is one of the markets we can actually check out here, is teams to draft certain players, which is another thing that you can find on the BettingPros website. So I'm trying to find where position, where is it here? Player position, draft position. Sorry, I'm trying to find exactly where this team to draft. Here we go. Yeah, team to draft a certain player. It's kind of set up a little bit weird in the website, but bear with me, folks. Shedeur Sanders, I think he's going to be a giant when it's all said and done, but I'm kind of growing more to the idea that it's going to be part of a trade back into the first round type of situation, because it's eerily similar to like that Will Levis draft where he was connected to the Colts or Titans, and then he ended up going to the Titans, but it was in the second round, and they had the first pick in the second round. So I don't know if one of these teams is going to be able to wait till round 2, because they're all picking at the top of round 2, and the Titans know the Giants know they probably have to jump the Browns, because I don't think if Shedeur Sanders was still there at 33, like I'm pretty sure the Browns would just say, okay, we'll take this guy. Like we're going to take him at 2, but we'll take him at 33. That's a much better deal. So we actually look at the odds here for Shedeur Sanders. It's the Saints that are the heavy favorite, and then you have the Giants at just 5-1. This one's over on specifically 4-1 at FanDuel. And I think that's probably where you want to that's probably the best bet to make. Just avoid the third overall pick nonsense. Just be like, hey, Shedeur Sanders is going to be a New York Giant. Again, you're getting that at the same odds I bet him to be the third overall pick, which maybe I should try to cash out if the sportsbook lets me, then just put that instead onto something else I like a little bit more, with him just becoming a New York Giant at any point during the draft. Could be third, could be 27th, could be in the second round. So that's probably how I would play the Shedeur Sanders market currently, with their discussion about the third overall pick, because again, I think that the market's probably on about something where he's probably not going to be third overall pick, but I would not just rule him out of becoming a New York Giant when it is all said and done. Let's move on to the fourth overall pick here on the betting side of things. My Patriots are up, and I could go for a very long dichotomy about how I feel about this pick here. Will Campbell is the heavy favorite, and I don't really agree with this, honestly. And I know he's a favorite in the betting side of things, but this wasn't the case like 2 weeks ago, where it was Armand Membou was the favorite to be the fourth overall pick for the Patriots. It's, again, If Carter or Hunter falls, that's going to be the pick. 100%. So if somehow Sanders gets third overall, then it's going to be Carter or Hunter. Whichever guy's left will be a Patriot. I have no doubt in my mind about that. Feel very strongly about that. Don't care about the need for the Patriots having them needing a offensive tackle. I don't think that's going to be the case here with them. So going back to the mock drafts, Campbell, Abdul Carter, Armand Membou, like I said. But my theory here is that still, Tony Pauline has confirmed that a lot of teams still have Armand Membou as the first offensive line on their board. He plays right tackle, which is a little bit concerning for Patriots that he need a left tackle. Well, Campbell obviously has the hand or the arm length issues and concerns. He's going to be a tackle, he's going to be a guard. And remember, Mike Vrabel said they're evaluating him as a left tackle, not necessarily saying, hey, we're comfortable playing him at left tackle. And then the most recent thing Vrabel talked about was that, yeah, there's a lot of guys in this draft that could be starting left tackles. So reading between the lines is there's depth in this class, in my opinion. And when you look at some of the guys they might be able to get later, so they take best player available at 4, whether it's Mason Graham, Jalen Walker, a defensive player, and then wait to draft a tackle either at the end of round 1, get back up, or with their second pick or the first pick in the round 2, Ariante Ursary from Minnesota. He could be a plug-and-play left tackle. You have Josh Simmons. You have Donovan Jackson, some of these Ohio State guys. I mean, Josh Simmons, if he wasn't injured, he would be talked about as a top 10 pick. So Mike Vrabel has ties to Ohio State. Maybe he has a little bit more intel about these guys and their injury concerns. Josh Simmons is going to the NFL draft. Like, the NFL is telling us, hey, we're confident this guy's going to be a round 1 pick. So I think that bodes well for his injury health concerns, that we as the public don't have access to that information. But the fact that he's going to the NFL draft, I think, is a good indication that teams feel good about him, or at least the NFL does feel good about him being a high pick. And that could mean, hey, maybe the Patriots jump on him at the end of round 1 and he becomes their starting left tackle. And they avoid maybe reaching a little bit on Campbell or Membou inside the top 5 just based on position need. And Tony Pauline also suggested, again, if the Patriots don't go with offensive tackle, that pass rush would be the direction. So that's why I mentioned guys like Jalen Walker or Mason Graham. Mason Graham, Michigan defensive tackle, 25-1 odds to be drafted by the Patriots, 4th overall. So that's something that I've sprinkled a little bit on. Again, going for these long shot scenarios where this is where you want to try to take advantage. So that's something that I'm looked about with my Patriots. I think in my final mock draft, I don't think I'm going to have them taking a tackle. I think I'm going to have them picking one of these highest ranked defensive players, whether it's Mason Graham or a Jalen Walker, because I don't think Vrabel is just, I don't think he's going to fall victim like, I got to just take a tackle. I have to do it because our team needs one. When he thinks, I think we can get the tier of tackle we can get in the round 2 discussion or end of round 1. I think we like that combination better with drafting the best player at 4th overall. So that's kind of my theory on the 4th overall pick. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about that. Again, I am a Patriots fan, so I feel like I am integrated a little bit more with this team more than other teams. So, but again, hey, would not be surprised at all. Again, they take Will Campbell, and as a Patriots fan, again, I hope Carter falls, I hope Hunter falls, but I'm okay with Campbell as well. That's the option. 5th overall pick, Mason Graham to the Jaguars. This is kind of every single mock draft has him here, 78%. This is the highest percentage that we're looking at the mock drafts outside of Cam Ward. And I feel like the Jaguars just could blow things up here. This is where I think things are going to get wild. They're keeping everything so close to the vest. You got Gladstone coming in. They're not doing top 30 visits. They're basically the Rams of the East, not doing a lot of team visits, and they're trying to keep things under wraps. And I think that's going to make this a surprising pick here. I know I talked about Ashton Jeanty, the last screen share. Those odds have been totally beaten. You can't get anywhere near close to the odds we talked about, where it was like 40-1 for Jeanty to be drafted by the Jaguars, or then draft a running back with their first pick. Now it's near like 6-1. So hopefully you guys hopped on that when we talked about it a couple weeks ago in the screen share. I think for me here, it's just avoiding Graham in the betting markets. It's juiced. He's the favorite, but I feel like Jacksonville can go in so many different ways here. Membou could be an option here if they're looking to upgrade the tackle position. That's kind of how I like it from a approach. You can look at them going offensive line. That's listed at like 3-1 types of odds. So And I'm still on Membou being the first offensive lineman selected. That's what Tony Pauline has reported, and I think Jacksonville could be in play for that if they decide to go on the offensive line. And if you bet them just draft an offensive line with the first pick, that gives you both Campbell and Membou as potential outs for that type of option. So that rounds out the top 5 selections. So we will go briefly and just check on some of these other things with the mock draft, looking at the odds. So let me just pull that up really quickly. 4th overall pick. So this is the Patriots. So like I said, I like Mason Graham. That's actually down to 20-1 odds. The lines are moving, folks. The lines are moving. You got to be quick and fast trying to get onto these things. And now, 5th overall pick. I mean, I don't even see Mason Graham listed here anymore, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, Jalen Walker, Membou, both plus 600, plus 600. Tyler Warren is an option, 25-1. Kenneth Grant. I mean, it's all over the place, folks. So this is where I'm actually pretty sure why Mason Graham's not listed, but he is the favorite. But after that, I mean, it's the Wild Wild West. So I would take advantage of Jacksonville kind of going off the wall here. I wonder if Genty's even, I don't even see Genty on here as well either. So I'm not sure what's going on with this thing, but I think that is interesting. So rounding out the top 5, I did want to just look at this really quickly. The guys I like the most for value here, I would say it's probably Jalen Walker, plus 340. Again, pass rusher. Again, he's listed as a linebacker, but comes with a pass rushing skill set. Because the Patriots taking him, because the Jaguars taking him. I've seen that in mock drafts. Dan Jeremiah, I believe, had Jalen Walker going to the Jaguars in one of his earlier mock drafts. So I think that's very fair in play. He's also a really good player. So I don't hate plus 340 if I'm looking to take a guy going in the top 5. We already talked about the Genty play, so I don't feel the need to put more on that. I would probably be more surprised if he goes to the Patriots than the Jaguars, just to be honest. Other players, I think the other guy I would look at would be the other Georgia Bulldog, Mykel Williams, 28-1 types of odds. It would be weird to see him go ahead of Jalen Walker, but again, another edge rusher from Georgia. I don't think he's got very rich intangibles. Kirby Smart talking about how great of a leader he is. I think that's kind of in play here. And then the tackles, right? So Campbell, Membou, depends on how teams feel about them. I've kind of thought about the ideas of like a Kelvin Banks, but 19-1, I don't necessarily love that. That's actually moved a lot, where I think I've seen at some books, it's closer to like 50-1. So shop the best prices as always. So Kelvin Banks. And then the other guy will probably be someone I mentioned when we were talking about the Patriots, would be like Josh Simmons. Like, could he be a top 5 pick if the Patriots are convinced, hey, he is our future left tackle? You know, we got the green light. Mike Vrabel's talked to his connections at Ohio State, and he's like, oh, he's totally fine. We're good to go. I'm not even seeing these odds listed here for him to be a top 5 pick, but I'd imagine they're probably pretty long. So, and he's going to the NFL draft. So keep that in mind. Like, teams they don't want to invite players that don't get drafted in the first round. Now, obviously, there's always players that don't get drafted, but Josh Simmons, again, if his medicals are clear, then he's in conversation for the number 1 tackle overall in this draft. So that will be the other option there, looking at the top 5 overall picks here on the betting side of things. So let's move on to the 6th overall pick. So we're going to swap back to the mock draft database here, or the consensus mock drafts. Ashton Genty. This has been written in stone that Ashton Genty is going to be the pick to the Las Vegas Raiders. Even though there's a lot of evidence for me that I've researched with Raiders GM John Spytek that I don't think is going to be the case. He's talked about ad nauseum about how deep the running back class is. And he just saw last year Bucky Irving as a 4th round pick just burst onto the scene, be the most productive rookie running back last season. And Pauline has also reported that they're very much considering Armand Membou with the 6th overall pick. And now we've just got more reports about one of their other tackles who wants a new contract. So all now the tea leaves are pointing, hey, it makes way more sense to them to go tackle at 6 and then draft a running back in round 2 than or trade for a running back or do something else than draft Ashton Genty, who he may not even be there potentially. You know, he could go 5th or 4th to the Patriots or to the Jaguars. So fading. I don't think I've put Genty ever in any of my mock drafts to the Raiders. I know it makes so much sense on paper, but I'm kind of fading this one here. So I'm going away from that. I like the Membou side of things here. And my favorite way to probably bet this is actually when you're looking at player draft position. And this is something that's also offered on BettingPros when you look at the certain markets. So this has all like the under over of where the player is going to be drafted. Now these markets have moved a lot since, because they get, obviously they're taking action, so they're going to move based on the action that's been taken. But Membou, to me, under 6.5 plus 300. I love this one. It's based on the fact that he's favored to go to the Jets. That's why the number is juiced and where it is at 6.5. But I just love the value there because I think their Patriots, Jaguars, and Raiders are all in play to draft him. And if a team wanted to get Membou, they would know, okay, he's not going to get past the Jets. So if we want to trade up to get this tackle that we view as this generational talent, etc., then we got to jump in front of the Jets. So I love that, especially at 3-1 odds, under 6.5 draft slot. That's definitely one of mine. And, I trust in Tony Pauline. You think the Raiders are in on Armand Membou, and I'm going to trust him. So trust in Tony, folks. We're going to roll with him here and go with the under on 6.5 draft slot for Armand Membou, Missouri tackle. 7th overall pick. Talked about it already with the Jets. Very clearly, seems like the Membou spot. Heavy favorites to take Membou. Tyler Warren also is very firmly in play here. Jets have been infatuated by Tyler Warren during the process. Now, the team to draft Tyler Warren, 3-1 for the Jets. I don't love that. You can just bet them to draft a tight end with their 1st overall pick, which is probably just a better way to use that. That way, you're not pigeonholed in Tyler Warren. If they trade back, maybe they like Colston Loveland as well. So that's how I would approach it. But I think there's been enough of Tyler Warren scrutiny where maybe he does fall a little bit more. And I still really like the Colston Loveland as the first tight end off the board. So I think that's still firmly in play. So not too many plays here for the Jets for me, besides maybe some Tyler Warren. 8th overall pick, Carolina Panthers. Jalen Walker as the favorite, and I think it's just really a matter of if he's there or not. Mykel Williams, the other Georgia guy I mentioned, look, I think that he's just going to go high. Whether it's, I don't want to say top 5 necessarily, but would not be surprised if he's top 5. I've bet the under on his prop, which was 50.5 draft slot. That's already been the under is now juiced a little bit more. It was at plus money a couple weeks back, but I bet him to be top 10. And I think I've actually sprinkled in some top 5 action there as well. But for the Panthers, they just got to clearly go defense. Maybe they trade back. That's an option, but trading back, it'll be interesting how many trades actually happen in this draft. So 8th overall pick, just plug in your favorite edge defender, and I think that's really the move to make. 9th overall pick. Okay, this is where the fun's going to begin, because although Shedeur Sanders is not in the consensus mock here, I can already see all the mock drafts with Shedeur Sanders, because it's the classic case of, well, he's going to fall outside the top 5, and the Saints need a quarterback because Derek Carr has this new injury. Derek Carr is just telling everyone the Saints, he's telling every other NFL team that, hey, the Saints have to draft a quarterback because I'm injured and I'm not going to play. But we can't be blinded by this so significantly, because whether Derek Carr is available this year or not shouldn't change the Saints' entire draft strategy. Well, now we got to draft a quarterback 9 overall. Derek Carr was not in their long-term plans anyway. Yes, it'd be nice for them to have him this year, but that was never going to he was never going to be the quarterback in 2026. That seemed like it was pretty clear. So I don't think that chasing the steam in the betting streets makes any sense. Minus 155 now for the Saints to draft a quarterback. I think that the Saints are still very interested in Jackson Dart. I think they might like Dart more than Shedeur Sanders. They sent a massive, coaching, a lot of their coaches to the Jackson Dart Pro Day at Ole Miss, whereas they didn't really put as much attention into the Shedeur Sanders types of Pro Day and his workouts. So I think that I like the odds still of Jackson Dart just being, he could be the pick here at number 9. And I like the odds of him 2-1 being the second quarterback drafted, because I think the Saints might like him a little bit more than Shedeur. I will say that New Orleans is also really unconventional, and they just do weird things. They're a team that's constantly been ready to be in a full down, tear down, and let's rebuild from the ground up, but they're always trying to find ways to compete. So I mean, they could have both quarterbacks on the board and they say, you know what? We're going to take a cornerback or we're going to take an edge rusher just because we're just going to do that. Mickey Loomis does really weird things. We're going to take Omarion Hampton. They could do some weird stuff. And luckily the books, and that's what the books are telling us, every other position that the Saints are supposed to draft are just massive long shots. So me personally, I like the best spot to be Will Johnson. And that's who you have here as the consensus mock, 27% cornerback, 9-1. They desperately need a cornerback. So the Saints, it's pick a flavor because I would stay away from quarterback, even though maybe it's the chalk, but maybe it's where you put him in your mock draft because it's so obvious. But the Saints just do weird things. And I think that betting wise, you just take a shot on one of these random positions at close to 10-1. And I think that's the best value and way to approach it because I just think that copy and pasting, it's so obvious they have to draft a quarterback in a bad quarterback class. They'll just take him top 10. Maybe not the case here. And again, maybe a team that could also trade down. So Will Johnson to me is, I know I read some earlier reports that the Saints were really in on him and he makes sense from a position need, and 9-1. I like those odds a lot, especially when he's like one of the most commonly mocked players to the Saints when you're not looking at the quarterback position. 10, Omarion Hampton, Tyler Warren, Kenneth Grant. These are the top guys here. I don't understand the allure of Tyler Warren to the Bears when they have Cole Kmet. They already have these receivers. Didn't we just do it last year? Like, they drafted a receiver they probably didn't need to, and then the offense wasn't nearly as good. So I think that, again, going back to long shots, Hampton, 15-1 to be the 10th overall pick. That's probably how I would approach this particular one, instead of hoping that Warren falls past the Jets, past the Saints, where he could easily be drafted. So that's kind of how I would approach it. Can be drafted inside the top 10. So we kind of hit the top 10 mark here. This is another market that you can bet into. So the best value, just looking at the consensus mocks, looking at all the names, at least inside the top 10, obviously close to top 10. So Kenneth Grant has the longest shot odds, 25-1 to be a top 10 pick. And that's per FanDuel Sportsbook. This one's tough for me to totally buy into because I'm like, do I believe Kenneth Grant's really going to be a top 10 pick? And I'm like, part of me is, I don't believe it, but then you have to recognize there's going to be weird stuff that happens in this draft. And if enough people have talked about or entertained the idea that Kenneth Grant, again, another Michigan guy, could be a top 10 pick, well, 25-1, I don't hate that. Again, mention my love for Mykel Williams, 3-1 to be a top 10 pick at most sports books. Shamar Stewart would be the other guy I like as a sprinkle on the side of the top 10. He's here at 15. I think that's the earliest where we've seen him. He's actually at 9 to the New Orleans Saints as well. So everyone that talks about Shamar Stewart, again, no sack production to be seen at the college level, but the intangibles. The right team, right fit is going to fall in love with this guy. So very boom or bust. And it's like, hey, we're going to take the shot. We're going to draft him really high because we believe in the upside. We're going to chase the upside with Shamar Stewart. So I got him as long as plus 750. I think that he's a good top 10. And yeah, those are kind of the main options there. And Josh Simmons as well. I think that he's the other guy. I don't have his exact numbers pulled up because it's something I'm just starting to kind of come around to. But I don't know. Just the fact that he was invited to the NFL draft too, that just to me just stands as hey, I think there's something here. But unfortunately, I think that means the odds aren't nearly as good because he is guaranteed to be a first round pick almost as a quote unquote lock in a draft that's basically not filled with much locks whatsoever. 11th overall pick. Moving outside the top 10, 49ers. We have them drafting a cornerback here, Jahdae Barron from Texas. They're plus 260 to just draft a cornerback with a first overall pick. So I think that gives them a couple more outs than just drafting cornerback here or drafting Jahdae Barron. They're betting on that. Jahdae Barron is kind of all over the place. His draft slot is 18.5, where I've seen him be mocked inside top 5. And I've seen him mocked outside of round 1 altogether. So he's really all over the place. I think that I'd probably rather not. I think I like him more on the over. I think he's, again, a player that they're projecting more to play in the slot, kind of like a Brian Branch prototype. Now, Brian Branch ended up working out, and it was like, why didn't we draft this guy higher? Maybe that type of scenario. But for me, I'm kind of hesitant to buy into the Jahdae Barron hype as much. I think I like the over on his draft slot at 18.5 because really, when you're looking here, like this is the only spot he's mocked to. So if the 49ers don't take him, then where is he going? Like he's probably falling much farther in the first round, if not into round 2. 12th overall pick. NFL's first wide receiver draft. I think this is where we could see that spot. The Dallas Cowboys consensus is Tedron McMillan, and it's mixed in with Matthew Golden as the second guy. I don't think, I mean, I do think it's going to be one of these receivers for sure. I think that the value is probably still in Golden to be the first receiver drafted. I mean, I don't need to convince you that, well, he's from Texas. He went to Texas. Jerry Jones loves speed. He ran a 4.29, whether he looks like it on film or not, like it's still there. Like his 4.29 is forever in the NFL Combine books. Like you can't take it away. I was there. I saw it. I saw it live. It happened. And that means he could just go ahead. But we saw Henry Ruggs get drafted ahead of a bunch of guys that he was not better than because he ran a 4.22 or whatever. And NFL teams just love speed, even though it doesn't work out. So. And I also don't think Golden's like a terrible receiver. Like he just also happened to run 4.29. So I mean, I think Tedron McMillan would be the better pick for Dallas, but Matthew Golden here as well would be an option. So I do think it's going to be wide receiver though. I'm pretty confident with that. The odds aren't as great anymore. I think it's like plus 100 for them to draft a receiver. I think the best value is probably just taking Matthew Golden to be the first receiver. I think it's closer to 2-1. And if you really want a long shot, Mykel Egbuka, 14-1. I kind of like that idea. Like he's just a really solid, strong wide receiver. People are poking holes in McMillan and Golden, whereas Egbuka, it's more about, well, how high's the ceiling? And I remember talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown like not having a high ceiling, and then that just totally ended up being terribly wrong. And because if you're just good and solid, like you get targets, you catch passes, and you end up being pretty good after all. So maybe he won't ever be the best receiver in the NFL. I don't think anyone thinks Amon-Ra St. Brown is the best receiver in the NFL, but he's got really good numbers, and that's what we care about for fantasy. So something to keep in mind when it comes to Mykel Egbuka. Again, you can find all of these types of plays here on player draft position, like I said. So first wide receiver drafted. Again, this is on the BettingPros site, so you can see all the odds listed. Again, this is why you want to shop the best book. So you can see Golden, FanDuel plus 160, DraftKings plus 150, BetMGM plus 170. But then you have Egbuka is like 14-1. So it's pretty bonkers. The drop off when it's like, is it really that significant of a drop off? I don't think so. I think that's probably where some of the value is on some of these guys. All right, Miami Dolphins at 13. Mixed bag here. Consensus is offensive line and cornerback. I was really early on to defensive line, 3.5-1 odds. That's kind of how I imagined it. I think position-wise, Kelvin Banks is probably a good opportunity to take the lower or the under on his draft slot, 14.5. Daniel Jeremiah said in a recent podcast that Banks is some team's offensive tackle 1. So again, going back to, we have Josh Simmons as offensive tackle 1. We have Banks as offensive tackle 1. Very indecisive of who is the number 1 tackle in this draft, which is why, again, not convinced that Will Campbell will be necessarily the first overall tackle drafted to the Patriots at number 4. Banks, again, mentioned him as a top 10 sprinkle, but I would really feel dumb if he ended up just going to the Dolphins or Colts at 13 or 14, where you miss out on the top 10, but you hit on his draft slot going under 14.5. So I think that's probably the way I would play it. The Dolphins are interesting, though, for some long shots because you have trades kind of potentially happening. They trade a receiver. I would probably stay away from cornerback because they needed a cornerback even if they trade Jalen Ramsey or not. So I think the value's probably gone with cornerback. I still like defensive line. If anything, they trade Tyreek Hill, and then you get another opportunity for some suppressed value on the defensive line. So I still like defensive line as probably the best payout there for Miami. To the Indianapolis Colts, offensive line. And we're starting to see this finally take over in the mock drafts where it's been tight end, and now you're finally seeing, wait, this offensive line is just been totally scrapped from last year. We need to revamp the offensive line after all the losses we had in free agency. Colston Levitt, I think, still has a chance. First tight end drafted. This is one of the earliest plays I had. It was plus 500. I think it's still really firmly in play. Like, these guys, I think, are ranked very, very close to each other. Pauline has talked about how there are teams that have Colston Loveland ranked ahead of Tyler Warren. They're very different stylistically, in my opinion. So it's about flavor for which tight end you want to draft. But for me, I think the value is so much on Colston Loveland. And I mean, I think the Colts are an option for him too. But I think that mock draft wise, I think you want to get away from the tight end discussion with the Colts and go offensive line. So Tyler Booker to me makes a lot of sense here. Offensive line plus 270 for the Colts. That's some great value. And again, I've gone over this screen a couple times, but it's something that we added, I believe, this year for the first time, is player to team position. And right there is the Colts pulled up. Offensive line plus 270. That's over on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Again, we're trying to pull in as many lines as we can, but yeah, these are oftentimes very different across the board. So some sites will have different things. Again, obviously you try to take advantage of shopping the best lines, but plus 270 for an offensive line when it's such a glaring hole in a draft where, because again, that means the Colts there's only 2 players they can draft with their first pick, would be Loveland or Hunt Warren, whereas there's a lot more offensive linemen that they could pick at their spot at 14 or if they trade back. So that's something to keep in mind. That's probably the best play. I don't know if I've fired on this one yet, but I think first thing when I hop off this screen share is Colts offensive line plus 270. We're gonna ride with that, folks. So get in the BettingPros Discord because that is coming your way. Back to the mock draft consensus. Falcons. We're almost halfway there, folks. And we've already been going for 37 minutes, but I love this stuff. I hope you guys are having fun. I'm having a blast. Everyone knows they have to go pass rush. I honestly can't imagine anyone doing a mock draft where they don't put a pass rusher here. I know they love Mike Green, so that's kind of probably who I'm going to settle on as the play. There's no value on betting them to go defensive line or edge because it's just so obvious. But I will say the long shot bet, and this is something I was reading from The Athletic, Michael Penix, they want to make sure they protect his blind side. So when their starting right tackle is in the last year of his contract, remember, the right tackle is more important to the Falcons than left tackles. And we have a lot of right tackles in this draft. So 9.5 to 1 odds for them to draft a offensive lineman with their first overall pick. I think that's interesting and worth a sprinkle. I also think, again, Mykel Williams is the pick here, 53%. And this is why I just love the under on his draft slot, 15.5. Under. This is by far my most favorite draft slot position player, under 15.5. Because I think that he's going to go even higher than this. But the Falcons are another out where if the top pass rushers that they've looked at and Mykel Williams is still there, I think he would be the pick. Georgia, Atlanta, please just take a copy out of the Eagles playbook and just draft guys from Georgia to improve your defense. That's all we need to do here. I could see Mykel going as high as Carolina. Again, I've talked about him as a potential top 5 pick. That wouldn't surprise me either. If he wasn't injured during this past season, I think that he would probably be a potential top 5 pick. So Mykel Williams, continue to buy the hype and bet him on the unders on his draft slot. Arizona Cardinals at 16. Inconclusive here. A couple different spots. So Campbell has a shoulder injury. Mike Green, Kenneth Grant. So defensive players mostly. I do think offensive line is still an option here based on what they have set up currently. They had a lot of defense during free agency. So I don't love them particularly. I don't have a strong read on where they're going to be going. And they're also been talked about as a trade down candidate. This should be a pass rush run kind of happening around this time too. So nothing really here for me on the plays for the Arizona Cardinals. Cincinnati Bengals. They got to go defense. I can't imagine they're going to draft an offensive player, maybe an offensive lineman. Cornerback's probably the best value, 3 to 1, but everyone knows they're going to draft a defensive player, and I don't think there's a lot of value on it personally. 18th, Seattle Seahawks. I talked about taking long shots, but this is the one they're drafting an offensive lineman. I'm sorry. I can't. And honestly, the odds aren't even that bad. Minus 110 for them to go offensive line. Gray Zabel's the pick here. That's who I've been mocking them as well to the Seattle Seahawks, the North Dakota State offensive lineman. And that's who I'm going to go with. Minus 110. I've made worse bets in my life, to be honest. But I'm not going to be surprised. Unless maybe it's Tyler Booker. I could see that happening, but I think it's going to be an offensive lineman. So, for non-long shots, for the boring picks, Seattle drafting offensive lineman at 18. That's probably going to be the play. Tampa Bay, we jumped on the BettingPros Discord linebacker as the position. Apparently Todd Bowles really wants a linebacker. Jahad Campbell should be available, but now there's some question marks about Campbell, the injury. So I think it's still defense for me. The odds have shifted where there's not a lot of value on linebacker anymore. So I think I'm shying away from that. It's probably going to be a defensive player, though. 20, the Denver Broncos. So running back, Omarion Hampton, Travion Henderson. I think they're favored to take a running back, and I think that's pretty fascinating. They could trade up to draft Genty. That's an option for them. So I think that and if they don't trade for Genty, then Travion Henderson becomes an option there. So I think, if anything, the Denver Broncos taking a running back, to me, just opens the ideas that we could get over 2.5 running backs drafted. That's still a plus money. Again, the Bears seem like they could be taking a running back. So if we get Bears and Broncos, plus if the Raiders end up going running back or Jaguars going running back, then we could have 3 running backs drafted, close to the top 20. That's probably what the move I like. I am starting to open up a little bit more to taking the over on 2.5 running backs drafted, just given we're at pick 20 right now. We've already had 3 running backs mocked so far in the consensus mock drafts for round 1. So I think it's very live. It's plus money. So again, when in doubt, take the plus money bets, because this draft is going to be weird. It's going to be random. So take as many plus money bets as you can get. So at least when weird stuff happens, you can at least capitalize on it the most, versus, because you're going to be wrong a lot. A lot of these bets are going to be, oh God, what was I thinking? This guy wasn't even drafted in round 1. Because, like I've learned over the last couple of years, it only takes 1 or 2 really long shot bet hits to kind of cover you for the entire draft. Like last year, Penix hitting on the Falcons. I also had Blake Corum going to the Rams, and then 3 years ago with Gibbs going to the Detroit Lions. Again, I had a lot of bets that I was not proud to read the receipts on. But those ones were the long shots that hit, and I think that's the best strategy to approach here. Another really big point in the NFL draft, Pittsburgh Steelers at 21. Man, I have no idea what's going on here. Jackson Dart is the popular pick, following the Shedeur Sanders type of, okay, team needs a quarterback that's there. Jackson Dart's the play. The Steelers are like interested in so many different players, though. I could see them doing so many different things. I think the best way to approach this is just the Steelers to draft a quarterback at plus 225. So that allows Sanders, Dart, Jalen Milroe. He has plus 130 to be a first-round pick. I know Colin Cowherd talked about it a couple weeks ago, and everybody laughed at him. But now it seems legit that, hey, Jalen Milroe's got a real chance of going to the NFL draft, or going in the round 1. He's going to the NFL draft. So, he's an Alabama quarterback. Yes, he is not without his flaws. I know Debro has a 3rd-round grade on him. I know a lot of people have outside of round 1 grades on Jalen Milroe, but Anthony Richardson was a top 5 pick, and he was an incomplete product. There's upside traits with Jalen Milroe. His rushing ability is elite. He has an explosive rocket arm. Yes, he's not perfect, but if you're chasing upside, if you're chasing a guy, hey, if everything hits, maybe this guy could be a top 5 quarterback, well, then I'm glad we took him in round 1. So I'm not sure how I'm going to dabble in the Jalen Milroe market per se, but Steelers, if you're going to be betting on them taking a quarterback, I would just take them to bet a quarterback outright at plus 225, I believe was the last thing I saw for them. Let's see if I can find them here. Yeah, we have all the teams listed here with their odds of what they're going to pick. And I felt like, plus 225. And it's 2-1 for Jackson Dart to be drafted by the Steelers. So just take the field essentially with them drafting all quarterbacks at plus 225. I think is probably the best move to make when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Other options, when I was kind of looking at the Sanders, is 5-1 to follow the Steelers. It's interesting because Dart is also favored to be selected by both the New Orleans Saints and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Sanders, if you think that he's not going to be a Giant and he falls, 5-1 is probably a good bet for that type of option. But to be honest, I don't love a lot of these. Sanders, he's all over the place, and it's not long enough where I feel bold enough to make the call, because 5-1 when there are so many other teams, so many other things that could happen. So I'm not sure if I'm going to have a final play on Pittsburgh. Again, all I had is Dart is to be the 2nd quarterback drafted. Like, that's really all I've done on the quarterback markets, because it's all over the place. And traditionally, the media hypes up quarterbacks so much, and then none of them go, and it's a bad quarterback class. So those are things I'm just trying to keep back in my mind as I keep getting pumped Jalen Milroe round 1 top 10 hype, when I'm trying to remain grounded in my takes and my approach to the NFL draft, betting wise. So if anything, long shots, wide receiver, 11-1, Pittsburgh Steelers. maybe that's the move. You just take the longest shots, going back to the process, take the longest shots and move away from things that are close to even money. Chargers had them pulled up here. Colston Loveland, if he's there, Kenneth Grant will be the second option. Like, they're both Michigan guys, and there's a reason why they're both favored here. Plus 150, plus 300 defensive line tight end for the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't think that Harbaugh is going to overthink. Oh yeah, I'm going to go away from my two of my Michigan players when they both make sense. They both make sense need-wise, and I would love this for Colston Loveland for fantasy, and I think that would clearly vault him over Tyler Warren as tight end 1 in this class, especially how much younger he is. And if he was with the Chargers, oh man, that would be we would be absolutely cooking with gas. 23rd overall, the Green Bay Packers. Very inconclusive here. We have cornerback, defensive line are the two main needs for the team. Maxwell Hairston, the quarterback from Kentucky, has gained a lot of steam as the Packers' first-round target. I think this is actually where I might end up mocking him because he's a good fit. They need a cornerback. He checks off the measurables that the Green Bay is you have to hit the thresholds for Green Bay or they're not going to draft you, just take you off your draft board. And he's also going to be first-round pick because he accepted his invitation to the NFL draft. So he was another player added. It's funny. The NFL said months ago that 7 to 10 guys max will invite the NFL draft, up to 18 now. So they are like, nah, we're going to just keep inviting people that don't end up getting drafted. So that's great. 24th to the Minnesota Vikings. This is another one of my favorite plays. So safety. You're seeing Nick Amanwari from South Carolina. You're seeing Malachi Starks, Georgia, safety. I think these safeties are going to go way later than most people think. From everything I've researched and read about them, yes, Amanwari blew up the combine, but he also misses a ton of tackles. And Malachi Starks seems like a double more than a home run. So a safer pick, but not someone you need to go out of your way to. We got to get this guy on our team. Like, he's a really good player, but maybe not worth a first-round pick, maybe a second-round pick. I think only one's going to go in the first round. So I'm going to take the under safeties drafted at 1.5 and take the over on Amanwari's draft position at 23.5, way over. Again, I think the missed tackles thing is a big concern with NFL teams with him. And I also like Starks just be the first safety drafted. So that's kind of how I'm approaching it. And another reason I like the under on the safeties drafted overall, Vikings are by far the most prime team to trade down. They have 4 picks in this draft, 4. And because we know the draft is so flat from picks 15 to 60 or something along those lines, well, the Vikings, we don't want to pick at 24. Like, we'll trade back 10, 15 spots, get another third, so we can actually fill out a rookie roster because we traded all of our picks last year. And that takes them out as one of the top teams to draft a safety. If they're now no longer picking in round 1, well, that takes another bite out of the potential safety teams that are going to be drafting in round 1. So that's kind of why I like trying to kind of think ahead a little bit of teams that could trade down. And that's kind of why I like taking the under on the total number of safeties drafted in round 1. Definitely one of my other favorite bets. Now, I'm going to kind of cluster the rest of these teams together because nothing really stood out to me when I was kind of doing a quick prep before this screen share. So the Texans, besides like individual named players, so Texans, so the mega juice is on the offensive line. It's so funny because Caserio talks about how we're never going to draft for need. We're only going to draft the best player available besides quarterback. It's like, dude, like, stop. You're drafting offensive linemen. Just please stop. Especially in a class where there's good offensive linemen. Like, it could very much be like, I would just be very shocked. So I'm not going to make any other plays on the Texans because it's so obvious they need offensive linemen, even though Caserio is saying, hey, we're going to do something different. I think it's just a matter of, hey, we're not trying to show our cards when you can clearly see the cards are right behind us in a giant mirror that is right behind Nick Caserio. Rams, they tend to be somewhat a wild card team. Again, a team we're not used to them picking so often in the first round, but not a lot of priority plays for me. I know with the Commanders, Debro likes the long shot of a safety here. I don't like it as much, but I'm never gonna push someone away from, oh my God, you bet this at 10-1. No, so that's a play that Debro likes for the Commanders to draft safety. Although I am a little bit lesser on the safety just being drafted in round 1. Although Commanders trade back, then you can see a scenario where they do end up taking a safety in round 2, whether it's Starks or Amanwari or I believe it's Watts from Notre Dame is the other safety that's kind of been thrown out in that round 1, round 2 cusp. So as we kind of wrap things up here, just a couple of names I want to mention, guys. So talked about Josh Simmons. I think he's going to go potentially higher than most. James Pierce Jr. is all over the place. So because he's got off-field potential concerns and attitude. So we'll see. I think the Lions might take a swing on him just because I feel like, hey, we can get this guy in the building. We can turn him around. But James Pierce Jr. is very polarizing. So he's someone that would not be surprised if he falls out of round 1 altogether, or one of these teams like the Eagles where they just, seems like the perfect Eagles pick. And that's why he is actually listed at 75% to be a Philadelphia Eagle, because it's just like a perfect pick. Because, oh, well, he's a disgruntled guy that fell because of off the field. Well, he goes to the Eagles and he immediately gets his act together and just becomes a Pro Bowler. So James Pierce Jr. to the Eagles, I kind of like that. Other first-round plays just based on the odds. So Nick Scorton, Tony Pauline has kind of put this in my ear. Texas A&M edge rusher, drafted in round 1. It's around plus 200 on FanDuel Sportsbook. I like that one here. I know we don't have him listed here in some of these mock drafts, which is a little bit concerning. So if you don't like that, I would say this is a one I dropped in the BettingPros Discord as well earlier this week. Ohio State edge rusher JT Tuimoloau. JT Tuimoloau. I think that's how I pronounce his name. I'm doing the best I can, guys. I'm trying to learn all of these pronunciations. Plus 1,900 on FanDuel, and we had him number 28 overall to the Detroit Lions, 30%. That's pretty high. And considering its flavor, its edge rusher, he's been on that round 1, round 2 kind of just cusp. Well, everyone's assuming Ezraku is going to be the pick. It could just be this guy instead. So based on the odds, whereas Ezraku has minus odds to be a first-round pick, well, don't bet that. Bet Tuimoloau that he'll be the first round pick that the Detroit Lions take as edge rusher. And JTT is our guy that we're going to bat for in the BettingPros Discord. So JTT, don't let me down. As for other ones, Darius Alexander, he is right here for the Kansas City Chiefs, 12%. Defensive tackle from Toledo. Look, there's a lot of really talented defensive tackles in this class. So plus 2,200 FanDuel. Darius Alexander drafted round 1. I like that as a play. Again, he's already getting some he's already getting some round 1 buzz here in the mock drafts with the consensus. So yes, 12% not great, but that's why the bet is at 22-1 odds that he goes in round 1. And then definitely my favorite one, again, also a player not listed here, but some of them I've had in a lot of my round 1 mock drafts. Oluwafemi Oladejo, who drafted in round 1. This was only on ESPN Bet that I could find his name listed to be a first-round pick, but plus 4,000. I think he's a edge rusher from UCLA. Great guy, great character player. I know the Commanders sent one of the biggest coaching staffs to his pro day at UCLA. So, I could see him going to the Commanders, who have obviously been linked to pass rushers, seeing Donovan Azuruke as their main edge rusher here from Boston College. So we know the Commanders could do a lot of different things. When you're a team that was in the NFC Championship game last year, you can kind of just pick whoever you want. A lot of these teams gravitate towards the trenches, just like, hey, he's the final puzzle piece. I also think they have a need for pass rusher after they lost Dante Fowler Jr. last year, who led the team in sacks. So I think that's an interesting option here as well. And as I kind of close things out here, folks, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Again, this is a lot of fun for me to kind of breaking down each of these teams, going through from my betting perspective. I know it's been a little bit lengthier, but hey, 32 teams, a lot of opportunities here that we can kind of play out here. So hopefully this saves you some time of going through the same exercise of thinking about what are all these teams going to do, because it's really like choose your own type of adventure, which I love doing when it comes to the NFL draft. But my FanDuel parlay essentially is what I'll do and kind of sign off here, because FanDuel is actually our promotion for today's episode. So, want to boost your bets? New FanDuel customers can bet $5 and win $250 in bonus bets if that first bet hits. Just head to bettingpros.com/FanDuel to get started. That's bettingpros.com/FanDuel and make your plays on FanDuel today. So I have listed off already some of my favorite FanDuel plays. Here's a fun FanDuel parlay featuring, I think I'm going to adopt them as my college football team, the Oregon Ducks. Go Ducks, baby. You can do a 2-pick parlay when it comes to players drafted in round 1. I think it's a really cool option on FanDuel. They offer this. So you can take some guys at some heavier odds at minus or very high odds to be projected in round 1, but just parlay them together. So I like this Oregon Ducks play. So you take Derek Harmon, who is getting a lot of steam as a defensive tackle, and Josh Connerly, an offensive lineman from Oregon. So you put those guys together, minus 137 on FanDuel. If you add Josh Simmons to that conversation, who I've really been glowingly talked about as well, you get closer to minus 110. If you add Maxwell Hairston to that, the Kentucky cornerback who's also been accepted to the NFL draft invitation, you get out to a plus 150 type of bet option. So that's over on FanDuel. And again, like I said, go check it out, bettingpros.com/FanDuel. Make your plays on FanDuel today. And with that, folks, that's going to wrap us up here. So I hope you've enjoyed this NFL draft betting opportunities video. This is, I think, the first time I've done something along these lines. But it's a lot of fun. So please go check out the NFL Consensus Mock Draft Round 1 to get an idea of like where are these people mocking these certain players. Use it to your advantage in the betting streets, and be sure to check out the stuff over on BettingPros. We have these odds listed, and it's super helpful when you're trying to shop the best lines for, well, I want to bet on the first wide receiver drafted. Like, where should I go to do this? Or I want to bet on the first tight end to be drafted. Where do I go to do this? You can do it all over on the BettingPros website and on the BettingPros app. So with that, also, let me know in the comments, what was my worst take of this entire breakdown of the NFL draft from a betting perspective? What's my best take? Where are you going to be tailing me, guys? And what are you betting in the NFL draft? Let me know what your favorite plays are. And if I offered anything insightful today, I would love to hear about it. So again, thanks for tuning in. And we're 1 week away from the NFL draft. Get hyped. Be sure to check out the live stream we have set up for both nights, day 1 and day 2. I'll be on early for both of those, breaking down the bets as we get geared up for the 2 nights of action. So thanks for watching, and good luck in the betting streets.